secret instructions of the soldiers of the general, the Society of Loyola, the Jesuits. We are now reading chapter 8. Our Father in heaven, your mercy protected us, your compassion encourages us, your spirit comforts us. I pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. How widows are to be treated that they may embrace religion or a devoted life. Number 1, as it will behold the widows to act with resolution, so must we proceed with gentleness upon this occasion. Let the mothers be instructed to use their children harshly, even from their cradles, by playing them with reproofs and frequent chastisements, etc. And when their daughters are near grown up, discretion, let them be especially denied the common dress and ornaments of their sex, at all times offering up prayers to God that He would inspire them with the desire of entering into a religious order, and promising them very plentiful portions on conditions they would become nuns. Let them lay before them the main inconveniences attending everyone in a married state, and those in particular which they themselves have found by woeful experience, often lamenting the great misfortunes of their younger years in not having preferred a single life. And lastly, let them persist to use them in this manner, that their daughters may think of a religious state being tired of leading such a life with their mothers. Number 2, let our members converse familiarly with our sons, and if they seem fit for our turn, introduce them occasionally to the college, and let everything to be shown with the best face to invite them to enter themselves of the order. As the gardens, vineyard, country seats, and villas where those of our society pass an agreeable life, let them be informed of our travels into several parts of the world, of our familiarity with princes, and whatever else may be agreeable to youth. Let them see the outward neatness of our refectories and chambers, the agreeable intercourse we have with one another, the easiness of our rules, which yet has the promise of the glory of God. And lastly, the preeminence of our order above all others, not forgetting amidst our discourses of piety to entertain them with pleasant and diverting stories. Number 3, let us now and then, as if by divine inspiration, exhort them to religion in general, and then artfully insinuate the perfection and conveniences of our institution above others, and take care to set in a due light, both in public exhortations and private discourses, how heinous a crime it is to resist the immediate call of God. And lastly, let them be soothed to the performance of spiritual exercises, to determine them in the choice of such a state of life. We must also take care to provide for these youth tutors that are firmly attached to our interest, who must keep a strict eye over them and continually exhort them to such a course of life. But should they seem reluctant, abridge them of some of their former liberties, that by such restraint they may become conformable. Let their mothers set forth the difficulties which the family labor under, and if after all they cannot be brought of their own accord to desire admission into the society, send them to distant colleges belonging to the order, under the notion of keeping them closer to their studies, and from their mothers let them receive little countenance, but let our members make use of the most alluring behavior, then their affections may be brought over to us. Chapter 9, of increasing the revenues of our colleges. Never admit any person if it can well be prevented to his last degree, so long as he shall have an expectation of any estate falling to him, unless he has a brother in the society who is younger than himself, or some other important reasons required. But above all things, in every action, the increase of the society must be regarded for ends known to the superior, who in this point, no doubt, agree that for the greater displaying of God's glory, the church should be restored to its ancient splendor by the perfect harmony of all its clergy. Wherefore, let it frequently in every place be published that the society consists partly of professors so very poor that accepting the daily alms of the faithful, they are entirely destitute of the common necessaries of life, and partly by others poor indeed, but indeed possess some of little matters by help for it. They subsist, being neither of their studies nor the duties they perform an encumbrance to the people, as other mendicants are. Therefore, let confessors of princes and noblemen, widows, and others from whom our expectation may reasonably be large, with great seriousness inculcate this notion, that while we administer to them in divine and spiritual things, they at least should in return contribute to us of their earthly and temporal, and let no opportunity ever be slept of receiving from them whatever is offered. And if by anything be promised and the performance delayed, take care to remind them thereof with prudence and in such a manner as may best conceal our love of riches. But should any confessors, either of noblemen or others, seem the least negligent to put in practice these rules, let him at the proper opportunity be removed and put another more fit in his room. And should it be necessary for the greater satisfaction of the penitents, let him be sent to one of the most distant colleges, saying that a person of his ability would be there of such greater service to the society. For we have lately been informed that several young widows being snatched away by sudden death did not bequeath to us their valuable effects through the negligence of some members who didn't take care to accept them in due time. For in getting these things, regard is not to be had to the time, but the good inclination of the penitent. Number two, let various wiles be used to draw prelates, canons, pastors, and other rich ecclesiastics to the exercise of spiritual acts, that through their affection for holy things we may gradually gain them to the society, and by that means promise ourselves to be in some measure partakers of their liberality. Confessors must remember to sift out their penitents at proper opportunities, what family, relations, parents, friends, and effects they have. Then learn their reversion, states, intention, and resolution, which they must endeavor to mold in favor of the society. If it be not so already, if at first trial we have prospect of advantage, if being improper to pray into all things at once, let the same confessor, under pretense of better clearing their conscience or doing some soul-saving penance, strictly enjoin them to make weekly confessions, and gravely with a seeming honest intentions invite them to it, that he may have the better opportunity to propose the questions at several times which he could not so conveniently offer at once. The matter succeeding according to his wish, if it be a female penitent, let always be tried to induce her to persist in frequent confessions and constant attendance on the service of the church. If a male, to frequent the company of the members of our society, and endeavor to enter into a familiarity with them. Number four, what has been said in relation to widows must be used towards merchants, rich citizens, and married people who are childless, whose entire estates the society may often acquire, provided these rules be promptly put in practice. But chiefly they must be observed with respect to rich female devotees, who often converse with our members, upon whose account the common people can be but grumbled at most, unless they happen to be descended from very noble families. Let the rectors of colleges endeavor to procure thorough information of the houses, gardens, farms, vineyards, villages, and other effects belonging to the prime nobility, merchants, and citizens, and if possible, the taxes and rents with which they are encumbered. But this may be done with caution and most effectually at confessions, in familiar conversation, and private discourses. And whenever a confessor has got a rich penitent, let him immediately inform the rectors and try all winning artifices to secure him. Number six, but the whole success of our affairs turns chiefly on this point, viz., that all members, by studying and compliance with everyone's humor, work themselves into the good graces of their penitents and others they converse with, to which end, where places are inhabited by the rich and noble, there let the provincials take care to send considerable number, and that they may perform this with more prudence and success. Let the rectors not omit giving them full instructions, as occasion requires, with what a plentiful harvest is like to crown their endeavors. Number seven, let inquiry be made whether by taking their children to the order, their contracts and possessions may fall to the society, and if so, whether should they enter into an agreement with us, any part of their effects could be made over to the college in such a manner that it may, after a limited time, revert unto us, and for the better success this affair, let the necessities of the society and the load of debts they labor under be particularly represented to the nobility and those that are rich. Number eight, if it happens that the widows and rich married people who are our friends have daughters only, let this be persuaded by our members to make choice of a religious life. The small fortune being left to them, the society may by degrees get the rest into their possession. And if they have sons who are fit For our turn, let them be allured to us, and the others be enticed by the promise of small rewards to enter themselves of different orders. But should there be only a son, let no means be omitted for the bringing him over to the society, and praying and freeing him from all fear of his parents. Let him be persuaded it is a call from above, and shown how acceptable a sacrifice it would be to God. Should he desert his parents without their knowledge or consent, if this be effected, let him enter his novitiate in a remote college, having first given information to the general. But if they happen to have both sons and daughters, let the daughters be first disposed of in a nunnery, and afterwards let the sons be drawn into the society when they are got into possession of their sisters' effects. Number 9, let superiors earnestly but with mildness advise the confessors of such widows and married people to apply themselves industriously for the service of the society, according to the instruction before laid down. But if they will not act conformable, thereto let others be substituted in their places, and they remove a good way off to prevent them from keeping up the least correspondence with any of the family. Number 10, let the widows or other devotees who seem with fervency to aspire a spiritual perfection be brought to give up all they have to the society and be contented to live upon such allowance as we from time to time shall think they have occasion for, that by easing their minds of the cares and anxieties of worldly affairs, they may be more at liberty for the service of God. Number 11, the better to convince the world of the society's poverty, let the superiors borrow money on bond of some rich persons who are our friends, and when it is due, defer the payment thereof. Afterwards, let the persons who lent the money, especially in time of danger or sickness, be constantly visited, and by all means brought upon to deliver up the bond. By this means we shall not be mentioned in the deceased will, and yet gain handsomely without incurring the ill will of their heirs. Number 12, it will also be preferred to borrow money of some at a yearly interest and dispose of it to others at a higher rate, that the income on one hand may more than answer the outgo of the other. For in the meantime, it may happen that our friends to whom we are indebted, compassionating the necessities of the society, when they find us engaged in the erecting of colleges or building of churches, may by will or donation their lifetimes forgive us the interest and may be the principal. Number 13, the society may also advantageously traffic under the borrowed names of some rich merchants, our friends, but never without a prospect of certain and abundant gain. And this may be done even to the Indies, which hitherto by the bountiful favor of God have furnished us not only with souls, but also plentifully supplied our coffers with wealth. Number 14, in whatever places our members reside, let them never omit to provide a physician who is firm to the interest of the society. Him let them recommend to the sick and prefer before all others, that he in turn return by extolling our society above all other religious orders, may occasion us to be called to all persons of distinction, when afflicted with sickness, but chiefly to such as are past hopes of recovery. Number 15, let the confessors be constant in visiting the sick, but especially such are thought to be in danger, and that the ecclesiastics and members of the other orders may be discarded with a good pretense. Let the superiors take care that when the confessor is obliged to withdraw, others may immediately succeed and keep up the sick in his good resolutions. At this time, it may be advisable to move him by apprehensions of hell, etc., at least of purgatory, and tell him that as fire is quenched by water, so sin is extinguished by acts of charity, and that alms can never be better bestowed than for the nourishment of support of such who, by their calling, profess a desire to promote the salvation of their neighbor. Thus will the sick become partakers of our merits, and by it atone for the sins they have committed, for charity covers a multitude of sins. This virtue may also be represented to them as that wedding garment without which no one is admitted to the heavenly feast. Next, let some passages be quoted out of the sacred writ and holy fathers, which regard being had to the sick person's capacity shall be judged most proper for persuading him to a compliance. Lastly, number 16, let the woman who complain of the vices or ill humor of their husbands be instructed secretly to withdraw a sum of money, that by making an offering thereof to God, they may expiate the crimes of their sinful helpmates and secure a pardon for them. We'll read chapter 10 the next time. May God our Father have mercy upon us against the wiles and snares of this deceptive enemy.